Oh,
So welcome everyone. Shabbat Shalom for our last few minutes. We are heading into Passover next week. So those of you who were here last week know that I did a Passover story last week about a new version of the Little Red Hen, Jewish style. This week, this is a story that I actually did last year, but please, if you were here last year, don't turn off your computer. Some things are, if we can tell the story of the Exodus every year, we can tell a really good story about Passover. And if I, as a rabbi, really appreciate the story where a rabbi is going to learn something from someone else, then everybody else should be able to appreciate that too. Okay, so it was a Seder night, and it was all over. And Rabbi Levi sighed happily. What a perfect night, he said as he laid in his bed. Felt warm. He had a fluffy comforter, a huge pillow, and best of all, a completely clear conscience. Why was he feeling so blissful? Well, because he was remembering the absolutely perfect Passover Seder he had. In fact, it was his 85th Seder. He knew the entire Haggadah by heart. Not me, okay, but he did. He knew every law about the holiday, every practice, and every custom. He smiled through his heavy eyelids as he thought about how the evening had gone and pictured Elijah's cup on the table. And he chuckled to himself as he remembered his great-grandchildren opening the front door and refusing to close it until they saw Elijah come in. Finally, he fell asleep. At least he thought he had, because suddenly he heard a gruff voice call out, "Good Yontiv! Happy holiday! Chag Sameach, Rabbi Levi, of another fine Seder." Well, Rabbi Levi jumped up out of bed. He was as alert as if someone had splashed water on him. He couldn't be dreaming, he told himself, because he recognized the man at the foot of the bed. "Good Yontiv to you," Rabbi Levi announced. His Seder had been so good, the prophet Elijah had shown up himself to congratulate him. And Rabbi Levi said to Elijah, "And as they say next year in Jerusalem." Yes, Elijah answered him, bending down to adjust one of his sandals. "Next year in Jerusalem." But his mouth turned into a sly grin. "Or maybe at the house of Chaim the water carrier. I'm on my way there right now, actually. He's just about to begin his Seder, and I don't want to miss a thing." And then suddenly, Elijah was gone. The next morning, Rabbi Levi woke up feeling he probably shouldn't have had that fourth cup of wine. His head ached, and he had slept hardly a wink. "Chaim the water carrier? Chaim the water carrier," he muttered all morning long. What on earth did Elijah mean about Chaim the water carrier? Finally, he couldn't stand it anymore. He called together all the students and told them to search high and low for this mysterious man. If his Seder was so much better than mine, he reasoned out loud, he must be a very righteous tzaddik. Maybe he's even one of the Lamed Vovniks, one of the 36 righteous folks on whom the world depends. Rabbi Levi jumped out of his armchair and paced back and forth impatiently. He must be one in a million. He tried to calm himself because he thought it's going to be a very long wait because he'd never heard of this person. A great man like this might be very hard to find. But only 10 minutes passed before the student's turn returned with no other than Chaim the water carrier, who was a thin, stooped man with a few wispy hairs on the top of his head. It actually happened that Chaim lived right next door to Rabbi Levi, although the rabbi had never noticed him before. "So you're Chaim the water carrier. Oh, I've heard such great things about you," Rabbi Levi said, shaking his hand. "Tell me, please, about your Seder last night. Don't leave a single word out." "My Seder?" Chaim's voice was breathless. Suddenly he fell to his knees crying and kissed Rabbi Levi's hand. "Oh, Rabbi, please don't call the police. I swear I have no idea where the food came from, or the silver wine goblets, or the silver candlesticks. I can return all of it except the food, of course, because I ate that Chaim blubber. Please, Rabbi Levi, I'm no thief." Relax, my friend, Rabbi Levi said, pulling the poor man off the floor and sitting him in a chair. I'm not accusing you of anything. What food? What silver? Tell me what happened. Well, you see, this year, Chaim said, I really intended to keep Passover faithfully. I really, really did. So I knew that whiskey is not kosher for Passover. So I began my holiday cleaning by drinking it all up. And by then, I meant to have a seder, I really did, but the whiskey must have made me sleepy. So around midnight, my wife finally poked me and said, Chaim, why don't you wake up and have a seder like all the other Jews in the world? So I said to her, dear, I'm just a poor ignorant man. What do I know? All I know is that once we were slaves and God freed us. Chaim paused for a minute and looked at all the faces and said, that's when it happened. When? What happened? Rabbi Levi demanded. Chaim closed his eyes as if trying to remember the whole scene. Suddenly, the table was filled with wine and food and silver so shiny it made my eyes tear. He looked at Rabbi Levi and said, of course, I thought the whiskey was playing tricks on me. So I said to my wife, where did this come from? Is it real? She said, real or not, let's eat. So I listened to her because she's always been a lot smarter than me. But I swear, I didn't steal those things. They just appeared. Rabbi Levi ignored his protest. But the Seder, surely you went on to follow every step of the Seder. You read every word of the Haggadah, he prompted. No, actually, Chaim said, I can't read. Rabbi Levi's mouth fell open. Could he have found the wrong Chaim? Are you sure you didn't say anything else? Chaim thought for a moment. Well, after we ate, I did say, God, thank you for this wonderful feast. But you know, in a way, we are still slaves. There is poverty, injustice, and war all around us. You freed us then. May you show us the way to freedom again. And then a little old man wearing sandals walked in and said, Amen. Chaim shook his head and said, sandals? It's so crazy. It's freezing out. No one wears sandals. You must not believe me. Rabbi Levi nodded his head as he sat back in his chair, remembering how Elijah had been in such a rush to get to Chaim Seder. And now he knew why. Of the 14 steps of the regular Seder, of the hundreds of rituals and thousands of commentaries, all the Passover details, Chaim knew only two things: that God had freed the Israelites from slavery, and the world still needs work. That was all, and that was enough. Anything else, Rabbi Levi asked Chaim? Well, I think I finally fell asleep until your students woke me up and brought me here, Chaim said, turning kind of nervous again. So tell me, am I in sort of trouble? No, my friend, not at all, Rabbi Levi said. After 85 years, I too feel like I have woken up. Next year in Jerusalem, he added, or at least in your house. So of all the things that could be and all the things that there are, the fact that must pay important to the most important part of the Seder is it also is my thing that even rabbis can learn from people sometimes different points of view, because you don't have the rabbinic blinders. You can have people come up with wonderful interpretations of Bible and other parts that we do. So that is our story for tonight. I am now going to, let's see if I did this correctly. So yes, I have the blessings in the chat, and we can get candle it. And everybody, as I texted Rabbi Barbara, everybody will just have to sing real loud so they don't have to hear me. You will note that I do one last die thing than Rabbi Barbara does, because my grandfather always told us that you're not supposed to afflict the congregation. That was usually said in terms of long sermons. He also says something like, if you don't strike oil in 10 minutes, move on. So, blessing over the wine. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen borei peri hagafen. Die die da 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 die 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 da 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 die 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 da 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 die die da da die da 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 die. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei v'samim borei minei v'samim. Always makes me cough. And our candle. Die die da 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 die 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 da 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 die 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 da 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 die die da da die da 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 die. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei me'orei ha'esh borei me'orei ha'esh. I die da 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 die 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 da 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 die 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 da 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 die die da da die da 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 die. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamadil ben kodesh lecho ben or lechoshek ben yom hashvi'i l'sheshet tameh hamaseh. Baruch atah Adonai hamavdil ben kodesh lecho. And as we take a minute to savor the last bit of Shabbat before the week starts, and we put out our candles. When I was in Israel, it was really very interesting to talk to, I was in a program for rabbinical school, but we didn't have our own rabbinical school there. And I worked through an undergraduate program and did the courses with extra research papers and things. And the Christians who were there, I had church on Saturday night rather, because Sunday was a regular work day for them, which I thought was kind of interesting because some of the late Friday night services originally started because people had to work on Saturday, and they were trying to make sure that they could have a chance to be together at least some point on Shabbat. So we will continue with Eliyahu Hanavi. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu HaTishvi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu HaGiladi, Bimhera v'Yamenu, Yavo Aleinu, Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben David. And I invite you to unmute for Shavua Tov. 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 A good week of peace, gladness reign, and joy increase. A week of peace. May gladness reign and joy increase. Shavua Tov, everyone. Oh, I see there's a few more people on. That's why I was hearing more voices than I thought. Next week we are, because it's not really, it's It's Kodesh L'Chodesh next week because it means it's between holy and holy because Shabbat maybe Shabbat Passover. Shabbat/Passover is over, but it's still Passover. So, and for people who are having a second Seder that night, we are not going to be on, but we will be back on the following week. Next Friday night is the Temple Concord Seder, either in person or you can be on Zoom. It is not going to be as interactive, but it will be live streaming for those who are going to be there next Saturday morning. Temple Concord won't be holding its things, but if people want to go to a Passover service, they are welcome to go to Temple Israel. And just as a side note, because I can't resist it, we were singing about Eliyahu Hanavi, and for those of you who know that I work for the Reporter and write book reviews, I am reading a book about Elijah the prophet and how he developed from Elijah the prophet to through things that would go on to that he would show up at every Passover Seder. Because if you read the original text, you are not going to find anything that says he went to every Seder, because that wasn't what was going on at the time. Anyway, it's a well-known author, Daniel Matt, and it's actually pretty fascinating. So anyway, it just struck me when we're seeing it that, oh, hey, I'm reading more about this. So that is our Havdalah tonight. For those of you who are on Facebook, I wish you a Chag Sameach for next week for Passover. May you have a meaningful and joyous holiday. So, Evan, we can unhook from Facebook there and have